Philosophers talk to our times. We citizens of dystopia. One of the things about dystopia is that disadvantage is seen as the new advantage. It's an old trope in music. What, from at least New Model Army to Taylor Swift. There's a cachet in being a new romantic. We're lost, we're found, we dance. Being weird was always seen as somehow to be special. If you like, alienation was the thing. The great philosopher Deleuze and Guattari write in Thousand Plateaus, I think it's Thousand Plateaus, that becoming is always to become minor, to leave the major, to leave the big tropes, the big ways society understands itself in terms of white working class or white middle class, and become something different, something a bit free, a bit strange. You enter the composition of your body into compositions, particles from somewhere else in the universe, and change what you are through them. Becoming free, becoming an atom, becoming bird, becoming woman, becoming little girl, becoming a dream. It's one of the ways, the very creative, beautiful ways that Deleuze tries to understand common notions, of course. How, through our perception of the world, through our being part of it, we can leave the prison of one body, one simple identity, and open up into a galaxy of other ways to be, becoming crab and moving different. Ways that we make our body change and explore a line of flight beyond any one situation. It's a beautiful piece of writing, isn't it? And becoming is one of Deleuze's great ideas, because it allows you to rethink what it could be to be a person at all, and to allow you to understand an individuality that cannot be reconciled with identity. But one of the things that this stage, shall I say it, of capitalism has done, is that it has defunded the major. So, there used to be an easy equation that if you were following the major arc, of white, male, respectable, working identity, your life was given to you straightforwardly. You could stay in the major arc all the time, because nothing would challenge you. Oh, occasionally you might you might be threatened with bankruptcy. But that would just be life chances. As a group, nothing would challenge you. Your birthright was mapped out in front of you, straightforward and easy. And this was the kind of major that Deleuze was saying, it's never truly free. Doesn't become. It just is. It is what it is, and there it is, and that's an end of it. But one of the effects of our current economic situation was that all the promises of the post-Thatcherite, post-Reagan world of money cascading down have been revealed to be what they always were. Threadbare lies, designed to make people all think they were part of a mass asset stripping operation, whereby the wealth of the state that had been created after the Second World War was systematically sold off to the lowest bidder, as long as they had their mates. And some, as a sop, was given to the people who had once owned it all. They were given then the right to own a little bit of their birthright, but no more. And gradually, of course, over 30 years, that has unwound until you've got a situation where, as we all know, increasingly all the money is held by a relatively small number of corporations and the individuals that represent those corporations. I'm being careful there, because I'm not sure I would call Musk a person at all. He's like Trump, he's a corporation, a thing, which is why they can be worth trillions of dollars. because they've lost their individuality into utter corporate identity. And so corporations have become the new major arc, the world of AI, of a mind that doesn't have an original thought of its own, but is very good at kind of systematizing everything else. Humans have kind of factored themselves out of the process. I'll talk about that tomorrow when we'll go through a yet more death of humanity, the death of the idea of humans, and the end of man. That's Foucault, but not Deleuze. But one of the effects then is to take this particular group, the group that feels itself to be major, and to force it into a minor arc. And yet, there is no minor arc for it. There is no simple becoming. There never was. It becomes then this deep crisis of identity, where to be a major human, to be that person who the politicians are representing, talking to, discussing, has slipped. The politicians always talk to power, and power are now corporate humans. Humans who understand themselves not as one thing, but in terms of a corporation. They are the new major. And the legacy major, what of it? Again, Deleuze and Guattari write in Thousand Plateaus that the major, if it tries to become, if it tries to explore its own body without organs, the way that it can be free, is demented, mad, sick, genuinely malevolent, because it wants to use becoming not to make itself free, but rather to enslave everything else, because that then becomes its identity. Its identity becomes that which everything else has to bend towards, and if it doesn't, then somehow it is being oppressed. It enters the minor arc then, not as a spirit wanting to become something other, wanting to challenge their notion of what they could be, but rather a shattered confidence that demands everyone attend to it and make the world dance around around the fact that it should have power once again. It creates a clear minority, a new sort of minority, the kind of minority that's actually the majority, and actually are the majority of the government, the majority of the population, nearly all the police, who are but still feel themselves somehow oppressed. Now, on the meta level, they're not wrong. They haven't missed something. They are right in the sense that the axis of power has moved away from them. And so, in a sense, being major is to no longer be part of that once all-powerful clique. And you're forced into a world where it's difficult to work out how to become, how to enter a world of difference. And you look on envy on those who do, on artists, on thinkers, on the LGBTQ++ communities, on all those people who are able to embrace their own difference and understand through it a different world, a different way of understanding that can avoid then just existing under the dread light of the corporation and those folk who become as corporations. But if you don't have that move in you, what then? What then but to support, as Deleuze and Guattari kind of say, what else do you do but support fascism? What else do you support but far-right ideology that will turn your own lack of being the major, of being those that empower, into a way of becoming? But it is a dark and twisted way. I talked about it, 2 days ago? That becomes the politics then, that understands things internally, that understands its identity through hurting others. Its becoming is by bringing them down. Why? Because in that bringing them down, it feels itself, its major identity once again. It becomes major. It becomes something that matters. something that matters, and that mattering it will enforce, of course, with violence, with whatever you like. So one of the ways to define dystopia, one of the interesting elements that it wasn't, I suppose, predicted, thought through, was that you get a dystopia the minute the major is forced into the minor. The minute that group of people who feel themselves to be the natural inheritors of the world suddenly realise politicians don't give a fart about them, and they've moved somewhere else, to something else, that there is some other power. And the major have to invent another way of understanding their identity, but will not just break and fall apart, not just become minor, but rather want to reinvent that very sense of major arc identity, and can only do it through retreating to the threadbare narratives of old imperialism or victim mentality. A victim mentality then that makes them frankly spiteful. And so we slip into a dystopia where, in order to placate this group of people who are the major arc, the politicians, who still of course do need votes, also have to become spiteful. Because that is how the major is feeling its identity, how it is becoming what it is, in an arc of hate and quiet loathing and spiteful revenge for slights that were never given. Or rather, never given by those who you take it out against. They're just being what they've always been. Dreaming, thinking, being different. The power was stripped by the corporations, but it was stripped at a point that is not easily perceivable. Because it is not easily perceivable by the major arc, that feels only that where it once really mattered, it doesn't. And also, it has to be said, it is relatively easy for politicians to encourage this, because it's relatively easy for them also to engage in the politics of spite. And spite sells at the moment. And that, of course, is almost the definition of dystopias. Societies where spite sells, because the major feels itself no longer to be in control and needs to find a new way to be what it once was.